in the beginning of a gender exploration, it's really common to feel like a fish out of water or like you are trying to navigate foreign territory. Whether that territory is womanhood or manhood or non binaryhood, regardless, this new chapter of life can feel really intimidating. So, quite naturally, as a way of finding a foothold in this uncomfortable situation, it can be really tempting to assume that you, the trans person, need to adopt an entirely new way of being in order to have success within your gender exploration, and that you need to become something other than what you currently are in order to fit in. But this is a very dangerous train of thought because it can lead you down a road which takes you farther away from your truth as opposed to bringing you closer to it. So, in this conversation, I'm going to give you a strategy for engaging with your gender exploration in a way that not only protects you from this most common mistake that I see trans people making, but it will also help you to cultivate your inherent capacity to pass as this new version of yourself. But just as a heads up, I use the term passing to describe the quality of being a genuine and authentic person. Or in other words, to me, passing asks the question, do I pass as myself? Which of course is a slightly different use of the word than you may be used to. So if you want to learn more about how this simple reframe of the word passing can really help to guide your exploration, then you should check out a previous video that I made. And so it's called The True Meaning of Passing. And there was also a link in the description. Okay, so moving on, first let's talk about one of the most common mistakes that I see trans people making on their journey towards passing or on their journey towards authenticity. And that mistake is overemphasizing the gender role and assuming that womanhood or manhood is something that can be achieved or attained simply through modifications to oneself. Or in other words, in my opinion, the most costly mistake that a trans person can make is placing gender outside of themselves and then orienting themselves towards their gender exploration in a way that requires them to make some fundamental changes to who they are naturally, simply so that they can fit in and then be accepted as a certain gender role. And then instead of leaning into their inherent masculine or feminine qualities, this person sets their sights on the mirage of becoming someone else. And they make the mistake of thinking that happiness and gender fulfillment is actually a result of passing within a role, as opposed to cultivating and expressing a creative truth which is inherent to them. So this is a disempowering mindset for a few different reasons. So first, it requires the trans person to give priority to the predetermined, stereotypical gender standard that has been agreed upon by the cis binary society. And then second, it strips the trans person of their inherent rightness and their ever-present okayness in order to make room for this perspective or this feeling of not being enough, not being there yet, or of needing to be different in order to be a successful trans person. And then third, it forces the trans person to search outside of themselves for their truth, for their authentic, unique sense of self, which in turn creates a situation where this person is never satisfied and they're never going to be fulfilled or feel a sense of completion. And so when all of these factors combine, our trans person ends up feeling conflicted, right? They're disconnected and out of sorts because on one hand, they know that exploring gender is their truth. So they know that there is something to this way of life that is right for them. But then on the other hand, they haven't quite satisfied that deeper longing, that soul level calling, which is calling them towards healing and wholeness and integration. And then even though this person might end up satisfying the requirements of passing within a certain gender role, But if that's the only thing they focused on, then they probably aren't going to end up passing as a genuine person. And the reason for this is because all of their transition related energies have been focused on conforming to this role, as opposed to exploring the landscape of creative potential which is inherent to them. Or, in other words, this person never actually discovers and cultivates an authentic relationship with their creative truth, which, of course, is a way of being that exists independent of any predetermined gender role. So, in this situation, what is our trans person to do? So, how does this person transition from superficial modification to a genuine exploration of the self? Well, that's what our strategy is all about. Letting go of gender standards, turning around, and becoming intimately familiar with one's own internal landscape of creative potential. Okay, so let's get into that strategy, which is called drop the role and just be yourself. And instead of conforming to something outside of yourself, recognize that manhood, womanhood, or non-binaryhood, all of this is inherent to you. And that these social roles that we're playing into, they're actually expressions of your internal landscape of gender expression, which is a function of your creativity and your connection to nature and to your boundless potential to express and love and engage with this world. Or, in other words, the primary objective of your gender exploration is not actually about the person you are becoming, but instead, it's about the person you already are. So it's not about saying, well, since I'm a trans woman, then that means that I just need to research how to be a woman and I'll just observe women, and so I'll just mimic that. No, because that's just going to lead me towards the abstraction of womanhood, not the reality of it. So instead, this path is about recognizing that who I am as pre-exploration me, well, this is not the fullest expression of myself. I recognize that. And so therefore, I am going to explore gender, not with the intention of going somewhere in particular, but instead, I'm just going to follow my heart. And I'm going to see where that leads me. And so I'm going to give myself permission to just be myself. And I'm going to slowly stop doing the things that feel like not me. And I'm just going to start doing things that feel more like me. And then when I engage with the term woman, I'm doing so because it helps me to access this genuine, authentic part of myself. It helps me to express a version of my truth, which is really, I can feel that it's wanting to shine forth into this world. So if your journey involves feminization, then really all you have to do is lean into the feminine qualities which are inherent to you. And the same goes for masculinization. So just give yourself permission to be naturally, organically you, and allow for your unique gender expression to just balance itself out, to find its own equilibrium. And don't ever forget that you don't need to become something else in order to be who you already are. Because the heart of this journey really is not about making these unsustainable modifications, major adjustments, which require huge amounts of upkeep. And this is not about creating a facade or putting on a show, but instead, this is about learning how to be yourself, right? It's about allowing who you already are to shine through you and into this world. And if you're feeling overwhelmed at the idea of just exploring gender, just remember that everybody possesses both masculine and feminine qualities. That is how the system was designed. So both of these poles exist within you. This is just the natural law, which means that really all you have to do in order to find that good feeling place, that feeling of congruence, is you just have to engage with and cultivate forces that already exist inside of you. But of course, the only way that you're going to do that is if you become aware of the creative landscape, which is inherent to you. And if you learn how to see yourself as a natural expression of this world. And in order to help you do exactly that, I created the Remapping Gender Workshop, which I would love for you to participate in. So this workshop is about presenting you with a new map of gender, which positions you the gender explorer within a world of limitless creative potential, which you are free to explore. So there's a link in the description, and I invite you to check it out if that resonates, and then I'll see you on the inside. All right, so that's all I've got in this one, and I will see you in the next one.